There's a part 2 to the IYO tweet and it involves Saintontas? What? That's insane! Actually, not so much, because this does talk about Wuwa, and we've gone over this post in a previous video where I talked about my thoughts on IYO's post. Now, again, I want to preface this. This was not meant to be like an attack mode from me. It was just more so I wanted him to be more detailed. And I wasn't the only one that truly thought this, and that's what makes this a little bit better in my personal opinion, is that I wasn't the only one that thought he needed to be more detailed. In fact, they actually had a conversation on Saintontas' channel, which is right down here. I will leave a link to his channel. I do like Saintontas' content. I do think that he's very, very smart. A bit of an ass, in the sense of, well, not an ass. I would say a bit of a dick when he says some stuff, but he's a smart dick. You know what I mean? And you know what? I like smart dicks. Hey, yo. Ah! Anyways, no. I don't know what that bit was. But yes, there was a couple things I did want to talk about with the tweet, and a lot of things that I actually looked into when it came to the actual whole shtick of well, not shtick, the whole video of Saintontas and talking to IYO. And honestly, it had a lot of really, really good information regarding Wuthering Waves, IYO's thought process, and some things that Saintontas really put into it. So let's dive in. So we're going to have the original tweet here. I'm not going to play Saintontas' video. I honestly think, right here, disclaimer, pause my video, then go and watch it. It is an hour and a half long. It's a little bit of a watch, but I do highly recommend that people actually look into it. But I want to clarify some things that, you know, was said in this and give my honest takes about it. That's ultimately why there's this video. I'm not going to do a full reaction to the hour and a half. That'd be way too long. And I got to sleep because I got to work tomorrow. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive in. So first things first, and IYO prefaced this, and so did Saintontas in the beginning of this video, that IYO went to bed right around the time when the tweet started to go viral, which made it look very vague, but IYO said that it wasn't meant to be just this vague post in general. He was going to elaborate and talk to people in the comments like he normally does, because IYO does tend to get a lot of people commenting on his stuff, and he usually does respond. I can say from experience that IYO has actually answered a couple of either my questions or comments within his posts, and that's why I like IYO, because he actually does care about his community. So, point one to him, and that makes a lot of sense. Maybe people like myself should have made a video until full context was out, but at the same time, you know, I wanted to at least talk about it and put my own, well, not, I guess spin, more so just my take on everything. So that's basically what I was trying to get at with the video. And again, I hope that if IYO did watch my video, again, there was no hard feelings meant in my video. I just wanted to post up what I thought about your tweet and my thoughts on the whole shebang-a-bang, right? Now, let's talk about what he was talking about with some of the things. As you can see in the tweet, there's this first post. Wuwa's downfall will be that of the community public perception. If they continue down this path, criticism is not y'all's enemy. Now, this is one that, if I remember correctly in my video, and I got the short-term memory loss BS going on, right? I do remember talking about this and saying criticism is not a bad thing. And this isn't just a Wuwa thing. It is actually all gacha games. And I think that a lot of the community in general needs to learn this. There are so many people, hateful people, spiteful people in all the communities, whether you're a Hoyo shill or a Kuro bot. You will find somebody in the gacha community that absolutely hates your guts just because you like the opposite game. And I think that that's disingenuous. And I don't think anybody would argue that, right? So he clarified his statement, and I wrote down some notes. I'm going to go off of my notes here just so in that way I know I kind of keep myself in a free flow, right? Downfall of Wuwo not meant towards financial issues, which is true. If you read this post, it is not a financial issue thing. I did say that Wuwa wouldn't be a downfall, or it was not going to be a downfall in the sense of a financial standpoint because of the fact that Wuwa does make enough money. However, I interpret it as the public perception was going to make the money kind of dived down, which meant that it was going to go downfall. That's not exactly what IYO was trying to get at least not from my notes here, right? I'm pulling them back up. I'm trying to make sure that I got all this ready to go, right? So more so about public perception through Reddit, Twitter, etc. But it's more so towards all gacha games, but WUWA more so as of late, which is true. It's exactly that. Like, WUWA is the spotlight right now, the spotlight child of everything going on, and especially since there's a lot of drama circling WUWA, whether it's a bunch of, actors that are going in and saying, I just started WUWA today and I hate the game, which I think is very bullshit. I'm going to honestly say it. If you're new and you automatically just hate the game right out the bat, tell us why. Like, what actually do you hate about it that you love about Genshin Impact? Because honestly, they're basically like the same game except for a couple of core mechanics, right? So if you're going to be mad about WUWA, actually be mad about WUWA for something that makes sense, right? Because Wuthering Waves is actually a really damn good game. And a lot of people who are just saying, oh, it's not a good game or crapping on it is literally just disingenuous BS. Don't listen to people on Twitter for the most part. They're just dumb, right? There's a reason why we call them Twitter freaks, okay? Now, back to the point, right? Back to this whole point here about WUWA's downfall, right? He wasn't referencing anything about end of service either, because a lot of people thought like, oh, it's going to end a service and blah, blah, blah. That's not the case at all. It's more so about the content consumed from the players itself, which is true. A lot of players take in the content of Wuthering Waves, and I won't lie, and this will tie into the S tier plus videos that they talked about as well. A lot of the content right now is circled around drama, news, or reactions. I'm no different. I'm not sitting here like pot calling the kettle black. I know I do it too, and I want to get into more detailed content. The problem is me working, my normal job, which is about 40 to 50 hours a week, plus doing my YouTube, plus doing Twitch, plus doing all this other like background stuff that I can't go into detail just yet about. It's kind of causing issues, but I want to dive into better content and be more of evergreen content, because evergreen content makes your channel just more fun to deal with, right? So there's that. So there's reiterating that criticism does not mean hating the game, and that is 100% facts, and I wish that people truly understood that. So many people get into this whole concept of like, if you find something bad about the game, it means you hate the game. That being said, if you don't find anything wrong in the game, that doesn't mean that you need to be like overtly positive against somebody's, critique. We should be debating in a healthy debate. And what I mean by that is like, if you really love the game, like take Saintontas, for example. He loves the game. He breathes this game, and shout out to him. He is probably one of the best WUWA players I've ever watched. He is that dang good, and he understands the game from every nook and cranny. Big shout out to him. However, there's people who don't like the game because of certain aspects. I don't think that makes it like, because Saintontas likes to say like, you shouldn't have an opinion if you don't know how to play the game. I disagree. I think that you could tell if you like something about a game or don't like something about a game, even if you don't truly fully understand like every single part of it. Like, if you're the type of person that looks at the ecosystem, right, and you don't like the way they do it, but you like the way that Genshin does it with the artifact system, I don't think that that brings out the whole, you don't know anything about the ecosystem thing. And maybe that's not entirely what Saintontas was saying, but that's kind of how I took it. It's like, systems and mechanics in the game, just because you don't have 100% understanding of them does not mean that you can't say that you don't like it and the reasons why you don't like it. But I will agree that if you're going to say you don't like something, you should use critical thinking and say why you don't like it to a T. And if you get corrected on something, there's nothing wrong with that. Just because you're corrected doesn't mean that you have to like it afterwards. If I say, I think, and this is just an example, and it's not actually something that happens. I could say Verena is horrible, I don't like her. And then Saintontas could come over and say, hey, why don't you like her? And I just go, oh, it's because she's green. Then it's like, okay, well, there's not really an argument there. You just don't like her color. You don't like her personality. But if you say something about her kit and you're wrong about her kit, you're kind of putting yourself up to criticism if you don't fully understand how her kit works. And that's why I stopped doing build guides, because I found out that I could be really, really dumb when I say something, because my brain may understand one thing, but what I'm missing is the second part of the ability, right? So that's just me. I can admit my faults, but a lot of people can't. And that's what Saintontas is saying, is like, if you don't like a mechanic or if you don't like a certain thing in a kit, you should be able to understand it and be able to say why you don't like it. You can't just go, I just don't like it. Because that is very bad to say. Like, use your brain, critically think, and you'll be fine, right? Now, here is another part of the tweet that really ruffled some jimmies, some feathers, right? Figureheads of these spaces need to hold more accountability and acceptance in their position of power, voice, and police shame the community together. Now, I took this as Wu was banned, or Wu was bad, ban him. Wu was bad, you know, I don't want to hear your opinion. I kind of took it like that, and I will apologize right out the gate, because that was not what IYO was trying to get at here with this comment. Now, we're going to dive in. This is what I wrote from my notes. So again, if there's some phrasing that doesn't make any sense, I will reword it as I'm going, right? And it'll make sense. Figureheads was meant to be vague. This wasn't to anybody specific. States that CCs need to put out fires and stop perpetuating problems. Meaning that we should stop, you know, being like, do you think like Wu was bad? You know, oh, or maybe that's not a good example. Maybe being like, oh, Wu is so trash, tell me about it, like type stuff. Like you're poking and prodding the bear to get more stuff. Or even being like saying Wuthering Waves is 1,000 times better than Genshin. And that could cause like the issues right there. And we should be putting out the fires by, in our chats or in our live streams, if somebody is being rude and hateful and not being constructive about the game, just more so being like, you're a terrible person for liking Wuthering Waves. How dare you? Stuff like that. And it makes a lot of sense when you put it in that perspective, because it's like, it's basically saying streamers and content creators should moderate their chats and their streams, which is fair. Bigger streamers have a hard time doing that. That's why they got mods. I have mods too. I'm not a big streamer. I just am playing the part. That's really all it is. Saintontas and IYO want to see more creators get better at the game before making critiques, or to at least understand what's going on in the game before providing criticism, which I think is absolutely fair. And it's what I talked about in my last point, where if you're going to say, like, I hate this kit because of this, you need to understand the full kit and understand where it's good at to fully, to fully give a critique. It's like when we look at people who say, just as an example, the Game Awards, right? I've never played Astrobot, but I, at first, got mad because I was like, how the hell did Astrobot win Game of the Year? That's BS, right? I have no context. I have not played the game. I don't really know anything about the game. I didn't even know that PS, or PlayStation freaking, characters from, other games appeared in the game. I had no idea. So to me, that was an eye-opener in the sense of, if I don't know about it, I shouldn't critique it. I have no reason. I have no understanding. That's on me. Right? So big shout out to them, because I honestly 100% agree with that. And other people should not have a say in the kit or mechanics if we don't fully understand them. That's when you ask, hey guys, I don't understand how Forte circuits entirely work. Can you help me? Hey, what is so important about Verena's ability to build intro skills? Why is that such a big deal? Or in the case of the Vars video with Saintontas and Brad, where they had their discussion, why is it important for Shorekeeper's ring to be gold instead of blue? Stuff like that. We should ask these questions and become better at all the games we do. And this isn't just for, WUWA. This is for Genshin Impact, HSR, Girls Frontline 2, Nikkei, all the gacha games. If you don't know how something works, ask the question. Because it's better for you to ask a question and be stupid for 5 seconds than to never ask a question and be stupid forever and stick your foot in your own mouth. That's just how it is. So I definitely agree with that point. Then we kind of skip a little bit of this stuff here, and we get to the WUWA is missing glue to the system. Top 3 most important to the game problems. Now, this was left vague for a reason, and even IYO said that it was vague for a reason. And there's a good couple notes on here. It says the glue should be more like Monster Hunter. A better relationship between the mechanics and kits for the characters and the bosses within the game. So if you look at like the example of the fallacy, when we were looking at the Brad and Saintontas conversation on Tectone's channel, right? You saw that Brad went to go fight the fallacy, but had a hard time. Didn't really understand how the overdrive worked. But then Saintontas does it, and he freaking kills it in one go. Like, not one shot. But it's all because he understood how the rotations worked of his characters, how the intros and outro skills worked, how it was building, and why it was so important for a character like Varina to be over a character like Shorekeeper in this instance, And it's not to say it's a bad choice for Shorekeeper. I wouldn't know. I'm just saying that there's a difference. There is a big difference between the two sets of teams when you have those two characters. But IYO said he wanted to see more of a Monster Hunter type of thing where the characters are doing damage to the, monsters. The monsters are reacting to those and changing styles, and then you're changing styles and blah, 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 blah. That type of stuff, to where it actually is a cohesive, ball of what's going on in your game. And it makes sense, right? Now, there's also another example, and this is an example that Saintontas used with Farron, the, actual, bird. And there's an example where if you basically parry a whole bunch of these dives that it does, it negates him using the fire spreading thing that could cause a lot of damage. And I never knew that. And again, Saintontas is so smart when it comes to Wuthering Waves. It's no wonder why he is the biggest creator with Wuthering Waves, right? It makes so much sense now, and I have a newfound respect for this guy. I told myself I was a WUWA content creator. I am not. I am not even close, especially when it comes to him. And watching Saintontas and actually hearing him talk and hearing him explain stuff makes me want to become a better WUWA creator. So big shout out to Saint again. I'll be the Saintontas dick rider. I'll say it. He's the GOAT, baby. Saint says that even though you can't learn specifics of characters within the game itself, it's not telling you in the tutorials and all that stuff really that much, players should learn this stuff through trial and error. And I came up with an example, Elden Ring. For people who like to talk crap about Elden Ring, right? Elden Ring is trial and error. Dark Souls games are trial and error, right? You are not going to be a person that picks up the sticks first day, clears it without any deaths, right? You're going to die. You're going to die, and you got to understand how the game works. It's just like that. And I do agree with this statement, even though I really didn't want to. My mind was telling me, no, it should be nice to me. It should tell me how to do stuff. But in all actuality, the reason why I fell in love with Elden Ring was because I got to learn from other players. If I didn't learn from my editor, Archice, how to play this game and how to really understand Elden Ring, I wouldn't have beat the game 3 times in a row. And I wouldn't have become a sponge of just learning information even about the lore. So I do, as much as my brain is saying no, my heart is saying yes. This is exactly, or maybe it's different. Maybe my heart's telling me no, but my brain's saying yes, this is how it's supposed to go. It's critical thinking. You got to use your brain. So use your dang brain, So great stuff from there. I was super pumped about that, and just being able to automatically connect it to Elden Ring made me like kind of, pop off a little bit. EO feels that a training mode could be beneficial to help with practicing these types of mechanics, but this wasn't a part of the original glue point. And Saint says that if this was prefaced or prefaced before in the tweet, this could have avoided a lot of negative backlash, which is true. A lot of the backlash came from him saying that there's no glue and that there's nothing that's really making the system of Wuthering Waves like amazing. And I got bad about that too. I'm like, there is nothing here. You're literally just stating nothing. And I take that back now, because while yes, there was nothing being stated, I took that completely in a different perspective. And it's all about perspective, and this is why Twitter is such a horrible place when it comes to finding information and taking it in, right? To me, when EO says that a training mode would be good, honestly, it sounds really good. It really does. And the reason being is that when you're playing a fighting game like Tekken or Street Fighter, there is a training mode for you to learn your combos and get better at the game. I think that a training mode like that, where it could like tell you like, hey, here's a command list, try some stuff. Like something like that, that'd be really, really cool. And then you could actually like kind of deep dive into, okay, how would this go? Like what damage can I do with this? What damage can I do with this? What team comp does better damage against the fallacy? Stuff like that. And I think that's a positive way to look at it. A positive criticism that would make a lot of sense for Wuthering Waves. EO feels that WUWA has a lack of entertaining content outside of guides and reacts. And this is where we dive into the S tier content that isn't reacts. Now, this is a thing on EO, right? And this is just me. Like, this is my one critique from this conversation, right? I understand where EO's coming from when he says he wants stuff other than reacts and, news-based content, reacts, excuse me, and guides. I totally get it. I get it. But I felt that during this conversation, Saintontas found so many examples, even just from his channel alone, where he would say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. EO did correct himself and say, listen, you might be doing it, but not everybody's doing it. And that's the problem, which is true. However, I do think that you should have prefaced that right at the beginning, because then you could have, well, you did after one example and said, you're the outlier, not everybody's doing it. And then Saintontas, like you would say an example of like fun content where you review somebody's stuff, like their account or stuff like that. And then Saintontas would be like, I did this, right? But I understand the core of what you're saying. And this boils down to, like, we're so used to just reacting and not having actual discussion, right? Or having a fun video. And I do agree. I would love to dive more into funner videos. I did the Genshin versus WUWA Hunger Games, which was fun. I did a 2-part series on that. Would love to bring that back now that we have some more characters. But yes, I would love to dive deeper into that. Now, he also said, Phil's reacts should be more centered around higher quality content instead of guides and WUWA channel vids, where it was brought up about the WUWA national guide, which is like, it's a cool video. It really, really is. But I do think that we need to find more stronger content WUWA creators, like that type of thing. And finding more of that of those videos before we could just be like, okay, let's react to it, or even dive deeper and find those in, as a diamond in the rough. Which brings to the next point that, EO said, and this was about where is the point right here? It's basically these two right here, right? So Kuro needs to get more directly involved with benefiting their creators, and Kuro is going to fail at their vision if they don't quickly establish WUWA as its own thing and not a Genshin plus XYZ identity. First things first, let's get that second point out the way. He said that he doesn't want it to be another Genshin title, but Saintontas does have a good point where Souls games does not equal its it's worse than Dark Souls, right? You have Life of Pi. You have, well, technically Elden Ring is not a Dark Souls game, so, well, it is, but it isn't. You get what I mean? Um, uh, what was it? Jedi Fallen Order was technically Souls-like, I guess, in a way. But there's a couple others out there that are really good, and nobody goes, "Oh, Dark Souls better." And if they do, it's very minor. Some people go, "Okay, it's Souls-like and it's really cool. It's a lot of fun," or they go, "Ah, it's Souls-like. It's not my cup of tea. I don't care." Right? This is the same thing. We're not gonna go like, "Oh, it's a Genshin game." I think that sounds stupid. But I do think there's nothing wrong with being compared to Genshin in most cases. Why? Because Genshin is the highest grossing gacha game ever, I think. I'm pretty dang sure it is. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but listen, that thing's pulling in 30 to 40 mil every month. It's been going on for 5 years, just about. Come on, guys. Like, really? Are we gonna sit here and say that it's a bad thing to be compared to Genshin? And honestly, Wuwa being compared to Genshin is not a bad thing in the slightest. If it gets compared to Genshin saying like, "Oh, hey, it has this instead of Genshin," that's plus for Wuwa. That's great. If it gets put out there that it's like, "Oh, well, Genshin does this better," it's still good for the business because then you could go play Genshin. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't understand why people have this notation of you can only play Wuwa or Genshin Impact. You can't play both. Boy, I'm here. I already do that. I'm telling you what, man. But I will agree that with this second statement, right? It sucks that Genshin takes precedence over other gacha games and makes it, oh, it's Genshin like. However, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. But you got to find something to differentiate yourself, which we'll get to here in a second. But to the first point, Kuro is becoming more active in promoting content with their content creators, as Saintontas has said. Saintontas thinks that IYO thinks that Wuwa could use a system like Riot Games' program where they feature stuff on the front page of the website. And I think that would be great. I think that all gacha games and all games in general that are main content creators should have that. Like, your content creators, while yes, are not finding the majority of your player base, right, are the ones who are going to get a good chunk of people invested into your game. Invest in your content creators, gacha games. I'm just saying, it's different than just putting Hoyo creator or Nikkei partner type thing. Like, showcase these videos, put them on your Twitter, put them on your website, do something, right? There's so many things that you could do to benefit both the creators and yourself. And then finally, the last point that I really jotted down because I felt like near the end it just kind of was more so talking about personal experiences and stuff like that. Find a way to differentiate away from Genshin, create different systems. Saintontas, or not Saintontas, IYO acknowledged that the ecosystem is a great example of differentiating, but him and Saintontas started talking about like maybe you could make it more like Pokemon, where the echoes have a bigger in-depth system, where shinies could have better power-ups. Like if you get a shiny, it's already powered up to 10, and you have double crit damage, and so on and so forth. And I think that's a good way to really go about it. I think that could be a really, really good idea. However, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think anything like that is going to happen at all. But I do think that Wuwa could benefit from doing some stuff different. Like just put different stuff out. You don't have to have a completely different thing entirely, but put out some stuff, get some feelers from your community, and yeah, I even think that this would be a good thing if they did the ecosystem like this. It'd be so much funner instead of just static encounters with the shinies. I think the static encounters thing is really dumb. Like, if I know where it is, I'm just going to go for that, for the shiny, and I only have to go for it once. What is the point of me going for multiple shinies? I'll tell you what, there isn't. But you could make it to where it's important, right? That's exactly where IYO and Saintontas went off to. Now, with all of that, it makes this post look godly. And now, he didn't say the creators, which I still think, like, there's nothing wrong with talking about who was part of the creator circle that he was talking about. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I think he would have been fine with just saying it out loud, which I'm pretty sure we could guess at a couple of the creators that are with him. However, looking at this post now with the context that we had from Saintontas' video, it's safe to say that this post makes a lot more sense now with the context. Now, IYO did say he was very vague, and he probably shouldn't have been vague in some cases, but at the same time, he didn't think that this post was going to blow up. And I'm going to say it right now. I think that instead of a Twitter post like this, you should have made it a video. And the reason being is because it would have got your thoughts out there, you could have fleshed it out, and it would have been that evergreen content, at least until they started implementing some of these changes. I think that would have been good. But it's too late for that now. But I will say I'm very glad to see that after looking at, this post and then hearing Saintontas and IYO talk about it, I'm happy coming out of this and understanding more of IYO's points. And this is exactly why I tried not to get like angry about it, or at least too angry about it in my previous video with IYO. And I didn't want to come off as disrespectful. It was just more so it's like elaborate, because if you don't elaborate and you don't say what you're actually meaning, it comes up with, like, yeah, your ambiguity is great, but at the same time, like, you're gonna get misconstrued so much by so many people, and Twitter is such a hellscape where people are just gonna take whatever and run with it. As Saintontas said, I may like apples, but they're going to say, oh, so you hate oranges. It's just sadly how it is, man. Sadly how it is. But overall, I thought that this was a productive discussion, and I wanted to give my points and how I felt about it as well, because I did make a video on the first one. So now I feel like I had to make the second video. I feel like I did. I feel like that's just a given. Now, again, I highly recommend to everybody that you go to Saintontas down below and you watch this and listen to it, because it clears up a lot of stuff. And again, I just want to say, big shout out to both of them as big creators. It's really cool to be able to see that people can talk and have a discussion, right? I think that as much as we talk about gacha games being in such a horrible place right now, I feel like amongst content creators, we're in a much better space because we're able to actually talk about issues instead of like being at each other's throats about everything. Critical thinking has become a big thing now, and I love that. I hope that it starts to spread to everyone's communities. Now, before I end off, like, comment, subscribe. Would love everybody to, have a great day, to be honest. Like, this was a great discussion. I keep saying it because it was. So, to me, that's going to be it. Saint, I'm just saying, dude, fix my Wuwa account, bro. Like, that's really all I can say about that. And then, of course, IYO, if you watched the previous video and you watched this one as well, I appreciate both. Like, if either of you did, or any bigger CC goes into this and watches this, I appreciate anybody who watches this video. I appreciate you, right? And I fully respect everyone's like opinions coming out of this, right? So long as we're all respectful and constructive. And that's ultimately what it is, constructive criticism. Anyways, y'all, that's going to be it for today's video. Love you all to death. And as always, we will catch you in that next video. Please take care and be safe.